The disgrace of the royal house. The princess sat alone in the cold garden of the royal palace. Her name was Lyra. Once she had been the pride of the Valari Empire, daughter of the mighty Emperor Talik. But now she was nothing more than a whisper, a shadow. They called her the useless one. Her powers hadn't awakened. Her strength was weak. Her mind, they claimed, was too soft for war. Lyra had stopped arguing long ago. What was the point? Even her own father had turned his eyes away from her during the last ceremony. Her sisters were warriors. Her cousins led armies. Lyra was assigned to reading old books and walking in the moonlit gardens, useless tasks for a royal bloodline. Raised in battle, she often thought about leaving. But where could she go? She had no allies. No one would protect a powerless princess, especially not in a galaxy that respected only strength. That night, her world changed. A red alert flashed across the palace sky, an invasion. The Empire's enemies had found a weakness in their defenses. Explosions echoed in the distance. The ground shook. Screams filled the air. And Lyra stood frozen, staring at the flames that had once been her home. Protect the Empress. Evacuate. The Council. Forget the disgrace. The guards shouted. She wasn't even worth saving. Then she saw him. A figure ran through the smoke, straight toward her. His armor was dark and dented. His face was half covered by a breathing mask. But his voice was strong. "Are you Princess Lyra?" he asked quickly. She nodded, unsure. "I'm Kai, human. Earth sent me. You're coming with me." Before she could speak, he grabbed her hand. His grip was warm, gentle, but firm. Lyra didn't understand why a human soldier had come for her. She wasn't the Empress. She had no powers. She wasn't worth a rescue. They moved fast through the burning halls. Kai seemed to know every turn, every weakness in the enemy's formation. His instincts were sharp, like a predator. Any soldier that came too close was dropped in seconds. They reached the outer courtyard. A small Earth shuttle waited behind a hidden wall. As they climbed in, Lyra turned to him, confused. "Why ... Me?" she asked. Kai closed the hatch and looked at her, because Earth reads more than battle reports. "We saw what your people couldn't." She blinked. "But I have no power." Kai shook his head slowly. "Maybe not yet, but someone has to believe in you before you believe in yourself." Earth believes. The engines roared. The shuttle vanished into the stars. Hours passed. They reached a secret outpost orbiting a quiet moon. Humans were their engineers, soldiers, doctors. All eyes turned when they saw the girl with soft violet skin and sad golden eyes. They saluted. Her no one sneered. No one called her names. No one looked away. Here, Lyra wasn't useless. She was a guest. A protectorate. A possible friend. Later, as she sat beside a heater with a warm drink in her hands, Kai entered the room again. He handed her a small device. "What is this?" she asked. "Training crystal," he replied. "Not for your body, for your mind. We believe your real power is locked inside, but not through the way your people tried. We'll help you find your own path." Lyra stared at it, then at him. "You don't even know me," she whispered. Kai smiled softly. "I don't need to. I just need to stand by you until you do." Something shifted inside her. A spark, not power, not yet, but something warmer. For the first time in years, Lyra didn't feel small. She felt seen. And maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something greater than power. It was the start of becoming herself. Asterisk. A new kind of training. The moon station was quiet but alive. It was not made of gold or jewels like the royal palace back on Vilari. The walls were metal, the bed small, and the lights dim, But Lyra felt more welcome here than she ever had in her father's court. Kai met her early the next day. He didn't bring soldiers or guards. Just 2 cups of strong earth tea and a small round training. Crystal, it's time, he said simply. They walked to the open bay area, which had been turned into a small practice space. The humans on the station gave them space, but watched with curiosity. Lyra sat cross-legged. The training crystal floated in the air in front of her. It was meant to respond to her thoughts, her emotions. But for years, no matter how hard she tried, it never lit up. She stared at it. Nothing. Just like always. I can't do it, she muttered. Kai crouched beside her. Stop trying to force it. That's not how your gift works. She looked at him. Everyone says power only comes through control. Focus. Pressure. Kai shook his head. That's how warriors fight. But you're not a warrior like them. You're something else. She frowned. Something useless? Kai leaned closer. Something different. Maybe your power doesn't come from control. Maybe it comes from emotion. Emotion is weakness, she whispered. No. Emotion is fuel, he replied. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny hollow projector. He pressed a button. It showed a memory one of her, years ago, laughing and dancing with her little brother in the garden, before he died. Before everything changed. Tears came to her eyes. Before she could stop them. And the crystal flickered. Just for a moment. But it flickered. She gasped. Kai smiled. There it is. You. Tricked me, she said, wiping her eyes. I reminded you. That evening they continued, not with fighting, not with weapons, but with memories, emotions, and old songs. Kai taught her how to breathe deeply, how to feel without drowning, how to reach inward instead of outward. Each time, the crystal responded a little more, small glows, quick pulses, not enough to call it power, but enough to say, something is waking up. On the 3rd day, trouble arrived. An Imperial ship entered the moon's orbit. It wasn't here to help. They're looking for you, Kai said, reading the human command logs. Not to rescue. They think you were taken. They want to bring you back and punish you for running. Lyra's heart dropped. I didn't run. They won't care, Kai said. To them, you're still the disgrace. She looked down. Maybe they're right. I still haven't done anything. Kai placed a hand on her shoulder. You lit that crystal. That's more than they ever let you do. The humans scrambled to prepare the base. Shields were raised. Defense systems armed. But the Imperial ship was large, heavily armed, and not afraid to fire. Kai, Lyra whispered, let me help. You're not ready. I'll never be ready if I hide. He looked at her. Then at the training crystal, glowing faintly. In her hand, and not a dot, they stepped onto the command deck. The enemy ship had opened. Comes. A voice echoed through the speakers. Cold, proud, cruel. This is Captain Dorn of the Valari Empire. Hand over the traitor princess immediately. She has no value. This is a warning. Kai looked at Lyra. She took a deep breath, then stepped forward. This is Princess Lyra, she said firmly, voice shaking but strong. I am not a traitor. I was forgotten, ignored, but no more. The comms went silent. Then came a laugh. Still playing games, little disgrace? You think words will stop us? Lyra looked at the glowing crystal. I don't need to stop you, she said. I just need to be seen. And as her words echoed across the ship, the crystal flared. A bright light. The first true glow. Not just flickering now. Awakening. Asterisk. When the crystal chose her, the control room fell silent. Everyone turned toward Lyra, eyes wide, as the training crystal hovered above her palm, glowing brighter than ever before. The light was soft but steady, pulsing like a heartbeat. Warmth spread across the deck, as if the cold metal around them had softened for a moment. Kai whispered, "You're doing it." Lyra didn't understand how. She wasn't forcing it. She wasn't angry or scared. She was simply calm. For the first time in her life, she had spoken her truth, and something deep inside her had answered. But the moment didn't last. A warning alarm rang out. The Imperial ship outside had powered its weapons. "They're locking onto the station," one of the human techs shouted. "Missiles ready." Lyra's heart jumped. She turned to Kai. "We need to stop them." He nodded, but looked unsure. "We don't have the firepower. Not here." She stepped forward, crystals still floating beside her. "Then I'll stop them." Kai blinked. "Lyra, that's not—" "I have to try." The command crew cleared a space. Lyra stood at the front window of the station, staring out at the giant enemy ship hanging in orbit like a predator. Its size was enormous, covered in sharp angles and glowing red engines. From here, it looked like a beast. She closed her eyes and raised her hand. Crystal rose higher. It spun slowly, then faster, shining white now, not just purple. Lyra breathed in. She reached for her memories, her childhood, laughter, her brother's voice, the taste of morning, fruit in the garden. Kai's belief in her got her own tears, not all of it. Crystal exploded in light. A silent wave pushed outward pure energy, invisible but felt. The human crew staggered. The station's metal groaned softly, but held firm. Out in space, the Velari ship paused out. Its systems flickered. Its weapons shut down. For 10 long seconds. It was powerless. When the systems came back online, the Imperial ship didn't fire. Instead, it sent another message. But this time, the voice was no longer mocking. "This is Captain Dorn... What did you do?" Lyra stared into the stars. "I showed you who I am." The channel cut off. Moments later, the ship turned slowly and retreated into deep space. The room erupted with cheers. Humans clapped, shouted, hugged. The enemy had left not because of weapons, but because of Lyra. She hadn't destroyed them. She had made them see her. Later, in a quiet hallway, Kai stood beside her. "You did something no one expected," he said. Lyra looked down at the crystal still glowing in her hand. "I didn't destroy them." "No, you didn't need to, and that's even more powerful." "I still don't know what this is," she whispered. "We'll find out together," he said. She smiled slightly. "Earth is strange." "We get that a lot," Kai replied. Smirking, that night, she sat alone under the wide station dome, watching the stars move slowly overhead. She was still the same girl, still the same disgrace. But something inside her had changed. She had faced her fear, and it had moved. In the way her people expected. Not with fire or metal or death, but with light. A power that wasn't loud, but was hers. And deep inside, Lyra knew this was just the beginning. Asterisk, a visitor from the past. Days passed, and Lyra's training continued. The humans didn't treat her like royalty. They didn't bow or ask for favors. They treated her like a person, like someone who mattered. It was strange at first, but she started to like it. Every morning, she trained with Kai. The crystal responded faster now. It floated higher, brighter, and sometimes even made shapes in the air. Other humans on the base began to notice her, not as a guest, but as something more. Still, there were doubts in her mind. Could she really become strong? Or had she just gotten lucky during the attack? That question was answered on the 5th day. The station alarm rang again, loud, sharp, urgent. Kai rushed into the command center. Lyra followed close behind. A new ship had arrived. But this one was not from the Empire. It was smaller, older, and it carried only one person. When the ship docked, Lyra stood ready, expecting another attacker. Instead, the airlock opened, and her older sister stepped through. Vara, the Golden Warrior, of the Velari royal house, leader of 3 fleets, feared across half the galaxy. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't seen Vara in years, not since the day she was publicly labeled unfit for the throne. "Princess Vara," Kai said, stepping forward. His voice was calm, but his hand rested near his sidearm. "I come unarmed," Vara said flatly. "I'm not here for war." She turned to Lyra. "I came for her." They sat alone in a quiet chamber, with guards waiting just outside. Vara stared at her little sister, silent at first. "You've changed," she finally said. Lyra looked away. "You never came to see me after the judgment." "I had no reason. You were declared useless. Do you still believe that?" Lyra asked. Vara's golden eyes narrowed. "I don't know what I believe anymore. All I know is that our enemies are afraid, and they're whispering your name." Lyra said nothing. "I watched the recording," Vara continued. "You made an Imperial ship retreat with no weapons, no army, just light." "That wasn't me," Lyra said quietly. "It was my emotion, my heart, my pain." "Then that's your weapon," Vara replied. Lyra stood. "So, are you here to bring me back? To chain me up and make me fight the Empire's wars?" Vara didn't move. "No, I came to offer you something." Lyra frowned. "What?" "A choice." Vara took a small silver emblem from her cloak. It was a symbol of high command, a level of leadership Lyra had never dreamed of. "You can come back," Vara said. "Not as a prisoner, but as a leader. The Council is in chaos. The Empire is scared. You can help shape what comes next." Lyra stared at the emblem. It sparkled under the lights. The old her, the lonely girl in the garden, would have taken it without a thought. But now she wasn't so sure. Kai entered after Vara left. "She offered me a seat at the table," Lyra told him. Kai raised an eyebrow. "And?" Lyra held the emblem tightly in her hand. "And I don't know if I want it." "Why not?" "Because they still see me as a tool," she whispered, "not a person. They fear what I can do, but they don't understand me." Kai nodded. "And here?" Lyra looked at him. "Here, I'm not feared. I'm trusted, believed in." "Then you already know your answer," Kai said simply. That night, Lyra walked to the docking bay alone. Vara stood near her ship, waiting. "I'm not going back with you," Lyra said. Vara nodded slowly. "I thought you'd say that." "You don't need my power," Lyra continued. "You need to stop chasing what you fear and start trusting what you don't understand." Vara gave her a long look, then placed the silver emblem in Lyra's hand. "Then keep this. One day you'll return. But not because you're called back, because you choose to." With that, she turned and left. The ship took off moments later, vanishing into the stars. And Lyra stood quietly, staring at the emblem in her palm, not as a burden, but as a sign of possibility. Asterisk. Fire on the moon base. The days after Vara's visit were quiet, but it was the kind of silence that felt like something was building underneath. Lyra kept training. She no longer needed help to activate the crystal. Now it responded to her thoughts almost instantly. She could lift small objects, generate light, and even sense the feelings of people around her. But it wasn't enough. Kai pushed her harder now. "You've touched your power," he said, "but you haven't shaped it. You haven't commanded it." Lyra gritted her teeth. "I don't want to fight. I know," Kai replied. "But sometimes the fight finds you." He was right, because the fight was already coming. It started with a strange signal picked up by the station's outer sensors. A low hum, repeating in a strange pattern. Not Imperial, not human. The text didn't recognize it. Lyra did. "It's ancient Velari code," she said. "Buried language, very old. What does it say?" Kai asked. She took a breath. "Says ... purge the traitor." Everyone in the control room went still. That night, the attack began ... from a ship ... from inside. The lights went out for exactly 12 seconds. When they returned, 2 guards were dead, and 1 hangar bay door was open. Explosives had been planted in the fuel storage. Saboteurs. Someone had come aboard during the last cargo delivery. Hidden, silent, waiting. The explosion hit the lower levels. Fire spread fast. Emergency doors closed. The crew scrambled. But Lyra didn't run. She ran toward the fire. Smoke filled the hallways. Kai found her near the reactor controls, coughing but still standing. "What are you doing?" He shouted. "There are people trapped in the lower wing." She cried. "It's too dangerous." She looked at him. "Then why are you here?" He paused, then smiled. "All right, let's go." They moved fast through fire and falling steel. A bulkhead collapsed in front of them. Flames rose high. Behind it, a group of engineers screamed for help. "Too hot to get through," Kai said, shielding his face. Lyra looked at the fire. Her crystal floated beside her, glowing hot white. "I can hold it back," she whispered. Kai turned. "What?" "I feel the fire. I can bend it just for a moment." Kai hesitated. "If you do this, you'll be exposed." She stepped forward. "They called me worthless. Let me prove them wrong." She raised both hands. The crystal glowed. The fire stopped moving, as if frozen in air. It shifted backward, parting like a curtain. "Go!" she screamed. Kai jumped through, pulling 2 engineers with him. Another jumped after. One stayed too long. The fire surged again. Lyra cried out and pushed. A wave of invisible force knocked the flame backward. The man rolled through the gap just as it collapsed behind him. Everyone gasped. Kai grabbed her as she fell to her knees. "You did it," he whispered. "I didn't think I could," she said weakly. "You didn't just hold back fire." He said, "You commanded it." They returned to the control center as the fire teams handled the rest. The base was damaged, but still standing. Casualties were low. Thanks to Lyra, the humans looked at her with new eyes, not as a guest, not even as royalty, but as a protector. One of them. Later, she sat alone on the observation deck, bandaged and exhausted. Kai joined her quietly. "You could have died," he said. "I didn't care," she replied. "They were in danger. I had to act." He looked at her. "You've changed." She smiled a little. "Maybe I've just stopped hiding." Kai handed her something. It was a small badge, human military design. "What's this?" she asked. "It's a field honor," he said. "Given to those who protect without being asked." She held it close. No crown, no throne, but it felt heavier, more real. Maybe power wasn't about birth. Maybe it was about choice. Asterisk, the enemy behind the curtain. The repairs on the moon base had just begun when the real message arrived. It was hidden inside the sabotage. Data logs buried under layers of false code. Lyra, sitting beside a human tech named Jonah, watched as he decrypted the final lines. Then he turned pale. "It wasn't just a random attack," Jonah said slowly. "This was a mission." "From the Empire?" Lyra asked. He shook his head. "Worse, from someone inside the royal family." Lyra froze. "No, ... who would do that?" Jonah brought up the hidden message. It was a voice recording crackled but clear. A woman's voice. "I warned you she was dangerous. She cannot be trusted. Erase her before her power wakes fully. She will destroy the balance we worked so hard to keep." Kai walked in just as it ended. He looked at Lyra. "Who was that?" Lyra's voice shook. "That was High Lady Marin, my aunt." Marin had always smiled in public, but behind closed doors she whispered poison into the ears of powerful men. She had no gift of her own, but she controlled those who did. For years, she had feared anyone who could shake her rule from the shadows. Now Lyra understood. She wasn't attacked because she was weak. She was attacked because her power was finally growing. And Marin feared what she might become. Kai paced. "She sent assassins to a human base. That's not politics, that's war." "We need to warn Earth Command," said Jonah. But Lyra shook her head. "No, this isn't just about me. If she did this once, she'd do it again. She hurt anyone close to me. I need to stop her myself." Kai frowned. "You're talking about going back into the lion's den." "I'm not the same girl who left that palace," Lyra replied. "If I don't go now, others will pay." They began preparing the next morning. A single stealth ship, borrowed from Earth. Just Lyra, Kai, and one silent pilot. No army. No backup. Just purpose. The journey to the Valari homeworld took 2 days through deep space. Lyra sat quietly during most of it, watching stars drift past. She could feel the crystal in her hand, pulsing not with fear, but with focus. This time, she wasn't running. She was returning. The Valari palace stood exactly as she remembered, tall, cold, and shining with pride. But she no longer feared it. She had walked through fire and saved lives. She had commanded flame and held her power steady. This was just stone. They landed near the hidden south passage. Kai led the way, silent but alert. His presence kept her steady. Inside, they moved like shadows, down the old servant halls, through forgotten doors. Until they reached the throne chamber. It was late. The court was empty. Only Marin stood there, speaking into a private communicator. Lyra stepped into the light. "Aunt." Marin turned. Her face twisted in surprise, then in something colder. "You shouldn't be here." "I know what you did," Lyra said, her voice firm. "You sent the saboteurs. You tried to erase me." "I did what was necessary," Marin replied calmly. "Your power is unstable. Your existence is a threat." Lyra stepped closer. The crystal floated beside her, glowing softly. "I'm not unstable. I'm awake." Marin raised her hand. 4. Guards rushed in. Kai moved fast. He knocked one down before the others. Reached them. Lyra didn't flinch. The crystal pulsed once. Wave of energy pushed through the chamber, gentle but unstoppable. The guards froze mid-stride, eyes wide as their weapons clattered to the floor. None of them fell. None of them were harmed, but none could move. Marin stepped back. "You can't control that," she said. "You're guessing." "No," Lyra whispered. "I'm choosing." A high alarm rang out. The Emperor's guards would arrive in moments. Marin stared at her, trembling. "You'll be hunted for this," Lyra nodded. "Let them come." "I'm not afraid anymore." She turned to Kai. "Let's go." And with that, they vanished into the shadows again, leaving behind a woman who had ruled through fear, and had just learned what real power felt like. The Rise of the Chosen One. Lyra and Kai returned to the stealth ship under the cover of night. The palace alarms echoed behind them, but no soldiers followed. Not a single blast was fired. Word of what had happened inside the throne chamber had already begun to spread. Guards had seen the wave of power, gentle, controlled, unstoppable. They had felt the force that didn't break them, only stopped them with purpose. That kind of power was rare, and it wasn't fueled by hate. It was something else. By the time they returned to the moon base, everything had changed. Messages from Earth Command came flooding in. High diplomats wanted to speak to Lyra. Velari nobles sent secret transmissions, asking for her protection. And then came the final message directly from the Emperor himself. Lyra stood in the middle of the command center as the hologram lit up. Her father's face appeared older than she remembered. Eyes tired. He didn't speak as a ruler. He spoke as a father. I was wrong, he said. I let others define your worth. I ignored what was growing inside you because it didn't look like ours. But now the whole empire sees you. He paused. You are not just a daughter of Velari. You are something new. Something this galaxy hasn't seen before. Lyra didn't reply immediately. She glanced at Kai, who nodded once quiet support, as always. Then she turned back to the Emperor. I'm not coming back to serve thrones, she said. I'm not here to keep old systems alive. I'm here to change them. The Emperor bowed his head. Then lead how you must. The next weeks moved quickly. But this time, Lyra was at the center of it all. No longer called disgrace, now called the chosen flame. Human and Velari forces worked together to form a new alliance, one built not on fear and war, but on truth, growth, and balance. Lyra stood between the two worlds, human heart, alien soul, and people listened because they felt something different in her. She wasn't the strongest with weapons. She didn't scream commands. She simply believed in others and in herself, and that belief lit the stars. One night, as stars drifted quietly outside the moon base, Kai joined her on the viewing deck. So, he asked, smiling slightly, what does a flame princess do now? Lyra laughed. Stop calling me that. But it fits. She shook her head. No more thrones. No more titles. I just want to help others find what I found. Kai looked at her. You know, when I came to rescue you, I expected a broken girl. I was broken, Lyra said quietly. But you didn't try to fix me. You just stood by me. That's what made the difference. He nodded, silent. She held up her crystal dot. Now it didn't glow wildly. It was calm. Balanced. Powerful, but peaceful. Just like her. The final ceremony was simple. A large gathering of humans and Velari citizens stood outside the new embassy on the neutral moon. No crowns, no soldiers. Just people. Lyra stepped forward. This galaxy, she said, has always praised strength. But true strength isn't in firepower or fear. It's in understanding. In choosing peace, even when you've been broken. She looked at the crowd, humans, aliens, hybrids. I was once called worthless. Now I call myself awake. And I will help others awaken too. The crowd erupted in cheers. But Lyra just smiled softly and stepped back. No need to stand above them. She wanted to stand with them. As the stars above shifted, the message spread across the galaxy. The forgotten princess had returned. Not with an army, not with vengeance, but with a light that could not be stopped. And behind her, always close, walked a quiet human protector. Together, they changed everything.